Welcome to tonight's live town hall with Mayor Patrick Brown. Your host is Michael A. Charbon.
Hi folks, welcome to Live Town Hall with Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown. I'm your moderator, Michael A. Charbon. You can watch us streaming on Facebook or YouTube. You can even put some questions to us on Twitter. Your Facebook and YouTube questions will appear on the bottom screen down there, so you'll be able to directly interact with the Mayor of Brampton. But unfortunately, your Twitter comments won't, but we will save those questions for the next time. We intend to do this program probably every 2 weeks, but we will be doing it live. If you have questions, you can always ask them at citystudio.ca, that's all one word, /Ask Brown. That's citystudio.ca /Ask Brown. Now, Mayor Brown's running a little late. So is the timetable of a man in demand. So I just wanted to check in with Brampton Focus's one of the founders, Don McLeod, just before the mayor pops on. I had a couple of questions about the election. Don, welcome to Mayor.
Welcome, Michael Charbon. It's been a while since you've hosted the mayor. It's been a busy time for you doing movie pictures and everything else. And I know Mayor Patrick Brown has been busy as well. So thank you for hosting this again.
My pleasure. I always take this as a wonderful opportunity, Don. You and Faz availing the people of Brampton the ability to interact with their mayor and other politicians at times, and all the coverage that you guys do. So I appreciate that. You know, ever since Rogers left, there's been quite a void of the ability of people to interact on a more of a free kind of stream like this. So I think it's very important. What you guys do at City Studios is very valuable, and I really appreciate the opportunity to host this. I enjoy doing this. I appreciate all the people that live in Brampton. I have many friends and colleagues that are there, and I think it's important. We need to do things like this. We need to flush stuff out, as people say, and find out some answers. To that end.
Well, you're very good at it, Michael. Number one, thank you very much for doing it. You've been doing it with us for over 7 years. That's something that you've interviewed. I don't know how many hundreds of people over the time frame that we've been doing Brampton Focus. So,
God, this sounds like a promo. Stop. It's good. It was my pleasure, for goodness' sake.
Hey, you know what? You've done a lot of stuff, and it's like it's good to call out. I mean, only so many people can take me and Faz on a regular basis, but every once in a while, we'll like to throw in yourself.
I got to tell you, Don. I mean, I've interviewed 3 mayors. I've interviewed a premier. I've interviewed tons of federal, municipal, and provincial leaders and candidates and representatives, MPs, MPPs, and without the facilities, you can always ask the questions, and you can be the mouth, and you can put a tie on. But if you don't have the electronics and the people doing the stuff in the back and actually funding things like this, that's what gives the opportunity. Anyways, enough about us. I want to talk to you about, October's coming quite quickly. I don't really see a lot of candidates in Brampton, other than all these people are trying to run for mayor, which is interesting. But what has been the sentiment as far as people running for office today?
Well, I don't know. It's kind of a mixed juxtaposition, because you would have thought with a couple of wards open that you'd have a lot more people running, a lot more candidates that basically had a lot of more meat on the bones, so to say. People that ran last time and came close are not running this time for some unknown reason. You know, you get that close the first time, it would be good to run the second time and build on that. But unfortunately, that's a lot of people. They don't do that. They just sort of disappear into the woodwork, and they don't build on it, which is an important factor. If you're going to win, you can't just try once and then stop. So I think the last time for the municipal elections, there was something like a 33% turnout. This year, October 24th, falls on Diwali. How that's going to affect the turnout in Brampton, that's something to look forward to.
There was some controversy with regards to that. I don't think the Ontario legislature was thinking to when they were looking at the holiday schedule. But that date's been determined now. Do you really think there's going to be a chance they're going to change that at all?
Well, I know the Brampton Council put something forward to the legislature, but I don't think that's something that at this point in time, I think they, going forward, I think at one time it fell on a Jewish holiday. They didn't change it then. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, there are advanced polls. There's opportunities to go out and, put your vote out a lot earlier if you really wanted to, and then celebrate Diwali on a regular basis.
So just so people who are tuning in, we're just waiting for the mayor to pop on. We
Yeah.
didn't want to put Patrick Brown on the cell phone because that's always a lousy connection.
No, we're waiting him to link up on home.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that he gets home and is on the computer. So Don and I are just kibitzing here, filling. You know, Don, when you look at the amount of media coverage that Brampton is getting now, it has seriously increased. You're seeing more representation on CP24. You're seeing more stuff on the news and on the radio. I think Brampton now is becoming much more of a newsmaker scenario than it has been in the years past. How have you noticed the attention? Because you're right there with the cameras. You're at most of the scrums. You're at most of the press conferences.
Well, I think that's number one. I mean, you know, it seems to be the regular thing that if there's something bad happening in Brampton, then you get the Toronto news media. That has been the case over the last 6 to 8 months because of the Gang of Five and Six, and you know, a whole bunch of circus involved in that. I mean, Mayor Brown has been, you know, running into stone walls on a regular basis. The other thing is in regards to Patrick Brown and his leadership campaign for the Conservative Party, that drew a lot of attention. I mean, you never hear what's going on in Mississauga. I mean, who's running against Bonnie in Mississauga?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel that Bonnie Crombie has not only inherited the respect, but I think she's going to inherit the tenure that Hurricane Hazel had. Everybody's, at least from what I've heard, everybody's very happy with the way Bonnie has represented Mississauga, and I think that any challenger will probably have a difficult challenge. I've known Bonnie for, oh goodness, probably 20 years. And every time I've had the pleasure of interacting with Bonnie, it's always Mississauga. She's always been a Mississauga girl, and I think, and I mean that with the greatest of compliments and respect. There's the only other mayor.
But there's going to be a big turnover in council in Mississauga. I think it's going to be a bigger turnover in council in Mississauga than it is in Brampton.
The only other mayor that I would compare to Bonnie Crombie is Susan Fennell as far as mayors going out to events. I had the pleasure of knowing Susan for personally when she was with the mayor and working with her. And I know that both Susan's schedule and what Mayor Crombie used to do, or Mayor Crombie is doing now, Susan's former schedule, as far as going out and meeting people and going, you know, when you're invited to someone's 90th birthday, you have to drive there, you have to park, you have to schedule it. There's a lot more things that take into consideration in a mayor's schedule. And I know both Bonnie Crombie and the former mayor of Brampton, Susan Fennell, went to all those things, and it made such a huge difference to the people. And it's that kind of situation that really grows support. And I think Bonnie Crombie has done an excellent job.
Well, Patrick does that too. I don't think I've seen Patrick.
I'm not saying.
I'm just saying it's like, you know, you look at his Twitter feed. I mean, he's like 5, 6, 10 events a night. It's like, you know, the guy's up till 12, 1 o'clock at midnight. It's like, I mean, that's an incredible schedule. I mean, that's what you have to do if you're going to do that. Voter turnout. If I could,
Don, just to interrupt for a sec, just a reminder to our viewers, we're waiting for the mayor. The mayor should be momentarily popping on. We did not want to put him on the cell phone because it's all, you know, hodgy-podgy, as they say in Britain. And we want to make sure that we have a solid connection. So we decided to start the program on time to honor our time commitment to our viewers. So we're just, Don and I are just doing a little bit of fill here. What do you think, Don? Let's go to English politics about Elizabeth Truss now being brought into the UK, because there's a lot of viewers in Brampton that still keep an eye on what's going on in the UK. They believe that it's going to enter a recession, and Elizabeth Truss is proposing a £100 billion rescue package and lowering taxes. Sound familiar?
Yeah, and at the same time, if you listen to her speech, she wants to reinvent, let's see, she wants to reinvent the cheese factory outlet in Brampton or in Britain. She wants to increase growing apples in Britain. She wants to increase growing pears in Britain. You know, that's her plan, is to basically, you know, I think she talked about 80% of apples are imported, 90%
I think
of this
if I may
are
borrow,
imported.
I think you're cherry picking, Don.
No, that's what her speech said. That's her speech. So she wants to, you know, she wants to bring, I guess, business back. You know, it's funny, after they had Brexit, you know, now they want to, self-sustainable.
Well,
But
she was. Do you know what? She served under 4 prime ministers. She was the foreign affairs person with England. She also was instrumental in the exit of Britain in the Brexit negotiation. So I think she's got the chops for it. I think it's going to be very interesting. She's also the 4th female prime minister. This is all. I'm doing another gig, so I have all this information about Britain at my fingertips in my memory bank here. I'm just totally amazed. Here we are. I think she's the 56th prime minister of the UK, and she met the Queen. I think she's going to do well. I think people were tired of Boris Johnson, and I think as a conservative, that seems to be the wave that everybody's starting to go now. I think she'll be a good choice. I think it's not a bad thing for the UK.
Well, Boris Johnson was a liar, and on top of everything else. I mean, the
That's
guy.
a bold statement.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, he was on a regular basis lying about this, lying about that. I mean, it's
I don't know if I would have necessarily called him a liar. One could say there were some untruths in some of the things.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I like to call a spade, and if you're a liar, you're lying.
Well, that's interesting. What's the other thing? The killings that went down in Regina. That was absolutely terrible. That's one of Canada's worst mass killings that have ever occurred. I think it was 10 people died, 13 injured, and 13 locations. It's just terrible.
I got to take this phone call, Michael. You go on with that.
Oh, look at that.
There we go. We are on.
Don, thanks very much for playing with us here.
Thank you very much. You go ahead and talk to Mayor Patrick Brown. You're on your own now. He
doesn't look interested at all that we're talking now. Thanks, Don. Mayor Brown, how are you, sir? I don't think he can hear me.
Oh, now I can hear you.
There you go. How are you, Mayor Brown?
Good, finally.
Good. Nice to see you. Thanks very much. I know your schedule is always very, very busy, and we appreciate you making the time for us. We didn't want to connect with you via the cell phone because it wouldn't have been a particularly good connection. So Don and I decided to play a little fill here for you in between. How you doing?
Doing good. City's always busy, so it keeps me busy.
I just want to clarify, you and I have not reviewed any of the questions I'm going to ask you in advance. You have no idea what I'm going to ask you. You and I have not talked.
Have not spoken to you.
Have not spoken. So I just wanted to bring you back, if I may. Our very first show that you and I did together here was Brampton Focus and City Studio, was May 25th, 2021. A long time ago. So I want to thank you for all the time that you invested with us. And, there's been a lot of rubber that's gone under the road, as they say. So before we start, I've got to address the elephant in the room. And I'm not going to concentrate on this, but I've got to ask you these 2 questions. This is with regards to the federal leadership. And, why do you believe that you were disqualified? And you were very much in Charest's camp. And now with Poilievre probably going to be, in the next couple of days, announced the Conservative leader. How do you sit? What do you see that happens? Can you put a bow on that so we can leave that topic and move on to being a mayor?
Well, I think it's probably a foregone conclusion now what the result is going to be. I think those who wanted an outcome are getting that outcome. Obviously, I was relieved when the Integrity Commissioner said that there was no wrongdoing on my part. And so I think it became apparent that, this is the backroom boys still having control of the Conservative Party. Ultimately, they get to decide, the party gets to decide their own direction. It's now my time to focus on the city of Brampton, and the Conservative Party will be responsible for the decisions they make.
Yes. And I mean, when you returned to Brampton, there was great support for you here. You had a lot of people who were very glad to see your return and very appreciative of all the work that you've done for the city. There were some others who weren't. I guess that would be a little disheartening at times, but election time can bring out some of the knives, as they say. When you're moving forward now, we're looking at university. The topic of university has always been something that people have been wanting to know more and more about. I understand that City Council in Brampton approved about $2.5 million for Sheridan. I know you're dealing with a couple of universities. Can you just shed some light? Has there been a decision on which university is actually going to rest in Brampton? I think you've got about 3, but $2.5 million for Sheridan, that should be quite a how does one say, quite a bait if you would want to encourage them to rest in Brampton.
Well, Sheridan obviously has a long-term interest in Brampton, but we're seeing expansions beyond just Sheridan. Sheridan obviously wants to expand in the healthcare field, but we're going to see major expansions at Algoma, major expansions with the new medical school coming to the city. So it's a pretty special time for academics in Brampton. 4 years ago, this council got elected on the heels of the province canceling the Ryerson satellite campus. And here we are 4 years later with 3 academic institutions competing to grow in Brampton. Now, we're not done there. I will take Sheridan's expansion. I'll take Algoma's expansion. I will take the medical school. But at the end of the day, long term, I still want the city of Brampton to have our own university. So we'll keep on working on that. And, credit to Councillor Singh and Councillor Santos. When some councillors wanted to give up and say the province closed the door, let's not even try, those 2 councillors worked relentlessly to make sure that we stayed in the game, that we were getting attention at Queen's Park, that they knew this file was important to us. And, I think it's fair to say if it wasn't for their passion on the academic file, there'd be no medical school coming to Brampton today. And we're going to have the first class in 2025.
I don't know Councillor Singh too much, but I've seen a couple of things, but I can definitely validate Councillor Rowena Santos's dedication towards the university and the hard work. That young lady never stops. So that's quite an accomplishment. So it sounds like Brampton now, it's going to be the industry of education, which is very good because that's housing, transportation, that's restaurants, that's Gage Park. There's a lot of elements that play into this, which is a very positive move for Brampton. I understand that Rogers has a cyber system or cyber catalyst that was started in 2018, but I think Brampton is doing something else with that. You're growing that even more now, are you not?
Yeah, we're a center for cybersecurity in the country when it comes to cybersecurity training. These are jobs of the future. It's a great partnership with the Toronto Metropolitan University, Rogers and RBC, and Brampton is the center now for cybersecurity. When they had the Canada-US Cybersecurity Conference, it didn't happen in Washington, it didn't happen in Ottawa, it happened in Brampton at Linehead. So, we are known to be a center of excellence on that front.
Now, you touched briefly about Algoma. I understand there's a couple of other $1 million grants, something in the tune of $7 million that's going to Algoma. And that, again, is going to fruitfully work to grow Brampton and the university programs, et cetera, that are here. And that's science and psychology, which fits excellently in the caliber of intelligence that you have growing in Brampton at this current time.
Yeah, and it's not just computer science. They are actually even added an aviation school. So if you see a bunch of pilots walking downtown Brampton, it's because they're getting additional qualifications at Algoma. So they're really focusing on sectors where there are shortages and employment opportunities, which is exactly what I want. I want our academic institutions to focus on what are the jobs that are available in the market today, and how can we give young people the skills to fill those jobs.
So in baseball, they talk about, or I should say in horse racing, they talk about the trifecta. We talked about Sheridan. We talked about Algoma. There's also something happening with Toronto, the University of Toronto, that's also planning a medical situation in Toronto Metropolitan University, Toronto Metropolitan University. That's another one of these positive elements. Let us know about that. That's fantastic news for Brampton.
Yeah, so I still remember when the premier called me before the provincial budget the day before, and he said, listen, Patrick, you're not going to get the university you've been asking for, but how does a medical school sound? I said, fantastic. I said, I'm still going to keep on pushing for a medical school, but a university, but we'll take the medical school for now. Listen, a medical school is one of the most prestigious investments you can have in a community. First new medical school in the GTA in 100 years. Toronto Metropolitan University is the new name for Ryerson. And so what Mohammed Lashmi is doing here with the new med school in Brampton is really focused on areas of the healthcare sector where there's going to be needs. He's going to really try to make this a modern medical school. So it's going to be really exciting. And there's massive spinoff when it comes to having a medical school in a city, because there'll be associated companies that want to be in the vicinity of a medical school. So this is a home run for the city.
Yeah, I totally agree. Folks, if you're interested in asking a question or posing a question to Mayor Patrick Brown, the 7th largest and fastest growing city in Canada, you can post them on Facebook or you can put them on YouTube. We'll put them in on the bottom and we'll put them through for you. So I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of construction going on in downtown Brampton. There's a lot of people that, you know, construction goes on. Summer is construction, winter is construction. Any idea when the construction is going to end, Mayor Brown?
So we're in a longer period of construction in the downtown. So this is not going to be a short construction, but we're going to work with local businesses to finish our downtown revitalization plans. Obviously, there was some water main and sewer work that needed to be done. We wanted to also reimagine the downtown in terms of the streetscaping, and so this is a rather significant construction project. But I know once we're through this project, that it's going to be a place that you want to be. But sometimes there's pain when you have a real remake of an area, and frankly, our downtown needed a remake. So this was a long overdue investment, and we're trying to collaborate the construction that with the Region Appeal and the City of Brampton to diminish the disruption that it's going to cause. But I think I'd be lying if I said it's not going to cause disruption. Construction in front of your business will cause disruption.
Yeah, construction disruption. We do have a safety question, and it's back to school times. Fast, let's put that question up. Hello, Mayor Brown. Residents are asking updates on automatic cameras for those that don't stop at the school bus red lights flashing. Can you please comment on that, and would there be a possibility to get that equipment? I do know that there is now an amber light that goes on, but this person speaking of a camera, any idea if this is going to happen in the city of Brampton?
Yes, it is. So we passed this motion at the Region Appeal to embark upon this in Peel Region. The City of Brampton offered to be the first municipality to participate in it. So that is coming. They're just working on some technical aspects of the agreement with the vendor. But I want to thank a Caledon Councillor, Joanna Downey, who worked really hard on this file, and Brampton Regional Councillor Michael Palesci. This was their initiative. And it's happening because of their determination. And I think it's going to help with community safety. And I think it's going to help with the safety of children in our community.
Keep your questions coming, folks. It's, citystudios.ca/Ask Brown. You can put a question up and we'll put that up and post it to the mayor. If there's one thing that a lot of people in Brampton of many cultures enjoy, is a park. Gage Park, I would say, for me, is one of the best. I love skating around Gage Park. I think it's just a wonderful situation. I love Cars and Stars, the Rib Fest, everything that goes on. Parks are such a vital community element to the people who live in Brampton. Now, I understand you've created what's called a Gita Park. It's the first one outside of India that's never been created before. I have no idea what a Gita Park is. Tell me, what is a Gita Park?
Well, if you look at the City of Brampton's infrastructure, look at streets and parks, they tended to be limited to Christian names. Father Tobin Road being an example. And listen, I'm a Catholic and proud of my Christian heritage, but this council felt it's important to make sure the parks and roads reflect the diversity of our city. And so we've looked for opportunities to have park renamings, to speak to the different journeys that people have had coming to our city and to Canada. And so there's been an effort over the last 4 years, whether it's a new park or a new road, to look at an opportunity to celebrate our mosaic, and whether it's Emancipation Park, Gita Park, Ahmadiyya Park, Saigon Park, Guru Nanak Road, Masjid Drive. These are all examples of how we've celebrated our mosaic of faiths and cultures and peoples. And listen, I love the diversity of Brampton, and I'm glad that we've got a council that has really embraced that. Celebrate our diversity. Understand that there's no contradiction in being fiercely proud to be Canadian, while at the same time being proud of your ancestry, your heritage, your faith community.
Well, you've always been absolutely faithful to that perspective in any time you've spoken and been in politics. I could definitely attest to that. So interestingly enough, we have another question coming up here with regards to parks and safety. So do you have a plan in place to increase school and park security? And do you have any plans in place to have another professional training sports complex?
So In terms of school security, that would be the school board that would make that decision. And if they want the help of the Peel Police, then the Peel Police would be there. But ultimately, that would be a decision of the school board. And I think the decision they made more recently was they did not want a police presence at this point. But if that changed, the police will be there to be supportive. In terms of sports training, professional training, I think the best way to create a healthy community is to invest heavily in recreation. I think you want to limit reliance on the healthcare system, create an active, healthy society, and recreation is one of the ways to do that. It's why we're building active transportation, running trails, walking trails, cycling trails. It's why we're in the new recreation center. We're going to have the largest new recreation center in the city, the Embleton Recreation Center in the northwest of the city. It's why we're adding cricket fields at Gore Meadows. It's why we're adding this new soccer pitch, the Teepa Hutchinson soccer pitch, soccer field at Century Gardens. Left, right, and center, we're adding new recreational amenities to the city. I want Brampton to have the best recreation in the country, and I'm determined to make sure that happens.
Sorry, I was going questions. It's like I'm throwing salt on making chicken. So I had one personal question. There's a crime spree that's going on in the United States. They have the no cash bail, and you're seeing way more people. When it comes to security, can you give us any idea about the crime rates in Brampton or police services? If they've noticed any increase now that people are coming back from COVID, back to work, back to school. Has there been any indication? Are we still in control? Or are we still all good?
So you ask a really thoughtful question. So obviously crime rates dipped during COVID, but I don't think that tells the true story. We have challenges on public safety. We've seen it, whether it's a sword being used at a plaza near Sheridan College, a journalist being attacked in the driveway, or the increase we've seen in auto thefts. We need to give the police the tools to do their job. In the last 4 years, we've added 180 police officers. We've added CCTV cameras to have the latest technology to be successful with our investigations. We've got funding from the province for gunning gangs. We got a new police station approved for the northwest of the city. We got an MZO to actually get that approved and expedited. But at the end of the day, we need to do more. Gangs have become more sophisticated, and I want to make sure the police have the tools to respond to all the calls. Right now, there's lots of calls that don't get responded to because we simply do not have officers. So when I hear some of my critics say that we need to defund the police, I think they're out to lunch. Defunding the police means we do not have officers to respond to calls. And right now, we barely have enough officers to respond to auto theft and B&Es. The last thing I want is being in a position where we're not able to have an officer able to respond to a violent incident. And, we're really I think facing some significant pressures where the human resources of the Peel Police do not match the call volume. So I'm going to be working with Chief Nish to make sure that he has the tools and the resources to build a team that's able to respond to the public safety challenges we have in Peel Region.
Well, I can attest, being a correspondent for Newsmax USA, that the crime rates in the cities like St. Louis and New York and Baltimore and Philadelphia and Chicago are all attributed to the more woke, progressive defund the police scenario. And that situation is going to change. And I really hope that we in Canada can stay steadfast. Part of the problem is no cash bail in the United States, where they're letting criminals out. We still have a strong law enforcement. And I believe that law enforcement in Canada is still very much respected by the people. Chief Nish is an excellent advocate of embracing communities, but still having strong law enforcement. And I think that's definitely something that people want. I don't think we want a crime rate here going on. But to that segue, have you ever you've driven in your community, right? And all of a sudden this person in front of you, because of the community and they see that you're far away, they don't respect the stop sign. They just think it's a casual press on your brakes and keep going. We have a question on that, which was something that I was kind of unnerved about. It says, so good evening, Mr. Brown. Most of the crossroads and streetlights in Brampton need to be resurveyed, as a few streets need all side stop signs and traffic lights and need to be revised in terms of signals to avoid major collisions. Thanks. Now, there's a great question. If you want to get a stop sign or increase it or more lights, what is the process, Mayor Brown, that you go through to appeal to the city to do something?
Well, I'd say to the resident that posed the question, simply shoot me an email, patrick.brown@brampton.ca, and I can have transportation staff look at that intersection, see if it meets the threshold for a four-way stop or lights, and happy to look into that. Once again, patrick.brown@brampton.ca.
So a couple more rapid questions. I know you've got to split at 8:30, if I may. Just a couple more questions. Ryerson would consider a partnership with Berkeley University. Is there any update on bringing the university to Brampton?
So right now, the Premier has given us the good news that we're getting a med school. I did tell him that I still want a university. He says we're going to have to he says it's a very competitive space. And his advice to me was to work collaboratively with some of the other university partners, post-secondary education partners in the city. You know, some of the existing partners may not necessarily be enthusiastic about a university. But I'm going to continue to push because Brampton's a big city. If you look at the biggest cities in the country, they all have universities. And if you're a young person growing up in Brampton, I want you to have the same opportunities that a young person in Waterloo or Kingston or Guelph or anywhere else, these smaller communities that have their own universities. And so I know I can be stubborn and determined, but that's what it takes to get results. And I'm not going to give up on this until Brampton gets our own university one day.
That's for sure. Two more quick questions. We want to honor the people who wrote in. Question from Robin Sue. Why isn't bylaw enforcement happening for park over sidewalk, park over curb, ongoing complaints with no action?
I think we've lost Michael.
No, you got me. Okay, we've still got you, Mayor. It's about parking on the curb and about parking over. How do they solve those parking problems?
So if there's a bylaw issue, then you can call 311. If for some reason 311 is not responding, then send it to me and I'll raise it with the manager at bylaw.
Okay, next question, Faz, is our final question for the evening. And it is, Brampton has the fastest growing transit ridership in Canada. True. What can we expect in terms of next addressing the strong demand? Mississauga has had several bus rapid transit lines funded in this term. Any updates about the Queen BTR process? That's a good question. Final one for you.
So the Queen BRT is fully funded, and we're proceeding with it. We're building our third transit facility. We're electrifying every transit bus in our fleet. So we're making major changes to our transit system. We're enhancing our transit system. And I'd say we're still focused on getting phase 2 of the LRT, which would connect the LRT to the GO train station. So
you got an electric fire truck too, didn't you?
We do, yeah. But and having a modern transit system, I think, is integral for any city, and so we're going to continue to make those investments in transit. And a shout out to ATU. We've got a great transit union that is very dedicated, and they really kept the city functioning during COVID, and so much appreciation for our transit operators.
Absolutely. Some of the unsung heroes, they kept the city working. Mayor Brown, I know you got to go. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to try and do this every second week and definitely on the Tuesday at the end of the month. It's called Ask Mayor Brown. You can reach us at citystudios.ca/Ask Brown. On behalf of Mayor Patrick Brown and our folks at City Studios, my name is Michael A. Charbon. Thanks for watching. Happy trails, Mayor Brown. Stay safe. We'll see you again soon. And thanks for your questions. Take care.